week we are starting chapter 12, which is rational numbers. And rational numbers are any number that can be written as a fraction, which includes more numbers than you'd think. Because even whole numbers, like the number 2, it can be written as a fraction, like 2 over 1. So we are going to spread out this lesson through at least the whole week. Because there's a lot of background information that you need to know before we can move on to the next lesson. So we're just going to do example 1 today, which is converting a fraction or mixed number to a decimal. Please make sure that you have these notes written down because, like I said, you need to master today's lesson to be successful with tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. So these notes are very important. So I'm going to start with a fraction like 5 over 11. So make this example A, 5 over 11. So right now, this is a proper fraction. If it were improper, your numerator would be higher than your denominator. And so in order to make fractions into decimals, you just have to divide. So let's write this over to the side. Divide. And you know that a division sign can be written like this, or it could be a fraction. I'm going to put like A over B. That's just A divided by B. It means the same thing. So for our 5/11ths, essentially this is the same thing as 5 divided by 11. And so to make this into a decimal, that's exactly what we're going to do, 5 divided by 11. So your top number always goes inside the division bar. Write that down for yourself so you've got that note. Your top number or your numerator always goes inside. And that's probably the most common mistake that I see as a teacher. I see students flipping where the numbers should go. So we've got 5 divided by 11. Now, we've done this before. It's just been a while. We worked with decimals at the beginning of the year. In order to continue dividing this problem, because 11 doesn't go into 5, you need to put a decimal point and a 0 and think of that number as 50. So 11 goes into 50 4 times, so you'd put the 4 over the 0. 11 times 4 is 44. Your next step with long division is to subtract. The difference would be 6. Now, again, we don't want remainders anymore. To continue dividing, add another 0 because 5.0 is the same as 5.00. And you can bring down that 0. And now you think, how many times can 11 go into 60? That would be 5 times, because 11 times 5 is 55. Subtract, you get a 5. Let's keep going, because we want to go until we don't have a remainder anymore, unless you start to see a pattern, which is going to happen in just a second. 11 goes into 54 times. That would be 44, with the difference of 6 again. Bring down another 0, and we've got the number 60 again. 11 goes into 65 times, and so by now, hopefully you can see the pattern up at the top. We've got, if I bring my decimal point straight up, I've got 0.4545, which ends up being a repeating decimal. This down here is going to repeat forever. And of course, I don't want you to continue dividing and dividing and dividing until your pencil breaks. But I do want you to write your answer like this. So this is 0.45. And since it repeats and both of those numbers repeat, you put a line over both numbers like that. And this technically is the best way to write this answer, 0.45 repeating. I'm not sure what it looks like in Big Ideas to put in repeating answers. I'll have to take a look at that. But I'm sure they've either made it multiple choice or made it a way for you to identify that it repeats. Now, I'll be honest with you. If you're just going to use your calculator at home right now, you're going to struggle next year. Because next year you won't be able to use a calculator until probably about February. So I highly recommend, I know it's kind of a pain, I know long division isn't fun, but I really recommend that you guys do these problems out by hand. Otherwise, you're just going to make yourself, give yourself more trouble next year. But I obviously can't monitor that. So I'm just hoping that you realize the harder you work now, the more it's going to pay off in the long run. Okay, end of my little lecture session here. Let me do one more with you, except this time instead of, your regular proper fraction, I'm going to give you a mixed number. So this can be example B, and let's make our mixed number. Ooh, I'm going to make it, yeah, some of these are negative now. Ooh, exciting. You can tell I'm a math teacher. I'm going to make this a negative mixed number. So -2 and 1/4. So the directions would say to turn that into a decimal. And so there's a few ways to do it. I'm going to start by making your mixed numbers improper fractions. So make a note off to the side. Mixed numbers to improper fractions first. And again, with math, there's lots of different ways to solve problems. I am not going to teach you 20 different ways to do this right now because I know that distance learning is already confusing. So I'm just going to teach you one way. So we're going to make this improper, to multiply and add. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So this ends up being 9/4. You should know how to do that. Now, if this is a -2 and 1/4 as a mixed number, then this has to be a -9/4 as an improper fraction. If it's already negative, it stays negative when you make it into a different form. So this is the fraction that we are going to turn into a decimal. And remember, all you have to do is divide. And remember that it's the top number divided by the bottom number. So this ends up being 9 divided by 4. Be careful because since it's a negative mixed number and a negative improper fraction, it's automatically going to be a negative answer when you divide. Don't forget that negative sign or it's completely wrong. So 4 goes into 9 2 times. 4 times 2 is 8 with a difference of 1. Remember, you never want remainders anymore, so we're going to put a decimal point and a 0. 4 goes into 10 2 times. Bring down another 0. And finally, 4 goes into 20 5 times. So this particular problem does not repeat. Remember, your decimal goes straight up. And so your final answer would be -2.25. I think I'm going to stop there. If you need help, guys, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be happy to help you. Good luck.